Hello everyone. In this video, we will look at how to make an interactive 3D environment using Unity 3D. The project is divided into 4 parts: setting up a Unity 3D environment, adding materials, adding lighting, and adding interactions in the model. For the first part, we will be using SketchUp as a modeling software. You can use any other modeling software that you like, such as Rhino, Revit, SolidWorks, or Fusion 360. SketchUp has free 3D models that you can download. To begin with, you can go to Windows, 3D Warehouse, type in what you're looking for, scroll down, and just download it. We already have a model ready that we will be using in this tutorial. Make sure that you have all your walls, floor, and ceiling so that when the user is inside the environment, they find it fully immersive. Let's take a look at what is inside this unit. As you can see, there are some things that are not quite right with it. Make sure that all your furniture is in the right place. Let's move this cabinet back to its position. Now, the more complex the model is, the more difficult and more time it would take for your model to render. So make sure that you keep your surfaces clean and minimum. Let's remove a light here. It will just make it easier. Also remove a pillow if required. There you go. So for this model, this looks really good. Make sure there are no hidden lines or any kind of junk objects that might make your life difficult down the lane. So this is how it looks. Let's unhide everything. Save the model, Control S. Go to File and export it as a 3D model. The most commonly used format is .fbx, so any software that you're using, please export your model in the same format. In the options, this is a very important thing. Make sure that swap YZ coordinates is ticked, because in Unity 3D, Y is taken as up, whereas in SketchUp, it's the Z axis. Units, you can have model units and press OK. Let's find a place. Let me save it in downloads. Let's do it as Studio Unit for Unity and export. While this is exporting, let us open and set up our Unity environment. Go to Unity Hub. There we are. If you don't have Unity 3D installed, you can go on their website and install it. They have all the steps written. It's very simple. Go to New Project. Make sure you're selecting the option 3D Core because we have a 3D environment. You can name your project whatever we want. Let's go with the name of this video. Okay, that sounds like it's too many characters, so this is good enough. There we go. Find the location where you would like to save. We'll be using downloads again. Create new project. It might take a while. Let's fast forward to the time when project is set up. Let's go and import our 3D model. Go to Assets, import new asset. Go to places where you might have saved it. We have it in Studio for Unity, import. All the files and 3D objects that you import would be seen below here in the assets part. They might or might not be things that you have in the scene. Simply drag and drop it into the file, and now you will see your 3D model here in the sample scene, which means that this is something that is active. One of the first things to do is to scale the model. If your model is not to scale, we are scaling all 3 axes uniformly by 100. You can use these arrows to move the object wherever you want. There are other things on the left to align your object. This is the view tool to see how your object looks. This is the move tools that we just used. This is the rotate tool so that it makes it easier. And this is the scale tool if you want to scale your object in any direction, but we don't need to do that for now. Another important thing is to see if your object is right in the scene of your camera. This is your camera here. You can see it by either clicking it directly on it or clicking on the main camera. So this is the camera view cone that you see. Right now, our object is not in the view. Do you see this cone? Yep. So this is a very small preview of how it looks, and our object is not there, which means that it won't be seen when you render the gaming engine. So let's go back to the main studio unit and move it. Now, if you want to zoom in on the model, you can just double click here and it will zoom in perfectly. To make it easier for us to render things, let's go and hide a few things. As you can see, these are all the elements that are here in the object. Just click on that and press on the I button to hide it. Hide it like this again. Where is this? Yep, there we go. Just hide it. And there we have our model.
Welcome to the second part of a tutorial about adding material and texture. Instead of creating new material and texture, we will use assets from the Polyheaven, a fantastic resource for free and high-quality material. Once you find the material you want, it's time to download it. Choose the Unity HD rendering pipeline option, and download the zip file containing the material and texture files. It's important. Here is our Unity window. Before you directly add the material and texture pictures, you can create two folders and name materials and textures to help you categorize the material. It's really helpful. Now, we can extract the zip file to the folder of your choice. Let's import the material and texture file in the Unity. We can drag and drop the extracted files from the folder into the Asset folder in your project window. Now, you can see them, and we can create a new material, floor. Next, we will add the pictures to the albedo first to get the visual material. Here it is. And then we add them to the normal map, which can provide the texture effect to the material. The purple one. And click the Fix now to make sure the pictures are in the same normal map. There are some adjustment options next to the picture cube. You can change the number to find the best effect. With the material and texture file imported, let's apply them to the 3D model. We can simply drag the imported material and drop it onto your 3D model in the Sense video. See, in the Sense window, you already add the material on the floor. And that's it. Your 3D model now have the material and texture applied from Polyheaven. You can further customize the material properties.
Once we have our textured project, which looks something like this, our next first step to get lighting involved is to move our project to URP. That stands for Universal Rendering Pipeline. It's a render pipeline, a way of rendering the graphics in Unity. In order to do that, we need to first go to Window, Package Manager, and in Unity Registry, make sure we have Universal RP installed. We already have that installed. It does not come default in your project. Once we have that installed, we can now go to our assets, create rendering URP asset. Let's call it something like live in Unity URP, and then that creates these two files here. You can then change the render pipeline to URP by going to Edit, Project Settings, and under Graphics, going here, our new URP asset. Alright, when we close that, everything should be pink. This is not unusual. We can fix this. This is just because all our materials here are standard. So in order to make it fixed, what we can do is select all our materials, go to Edit, Rendering, Materials, Convert to URP. And look, everything's fixed. We have some missing materials here that you can fix as well by just adding back in. No big deal. Perfect. Our materials are fixed. Great. Our next step now is to add in our lights. To do that, we have to create a new texture. So let's find a new texture. New material. There we are. Universal Render Pipeline Lit. And for this material, we're going to make it emissive. So we'll just call this light for now. Rename light. You can change the color to like a yellow, something like that. Alright, we're gonna enable emission. Something like that. And this here controls our intensity of lighting. Let's have it around 1 for now and see how that looks. Okay, now we can apply that now to our lights. One other thing here, what we can do is also set receive shadows to false. Wonderful. So we have something like that, and I'm also going to add in the light here. Great. Here are some lighting settings. So we can go to Window, Rendering, Light. That should open up this panel. I have it already pinned here to the side. One thing I want to change is our skylight. Currently, I have it set this way. Let's see. So right now, when I adjust the directional light, it's going in this direction. If I rotate it, for example, you see that the sun actually is procedural, it's real time, reflecting in the horizon direction. So that's a useful tool. You can adjust this light. Guys, the idea here is that when we go to lighting, and we go to, we can first of all create a new lighting asset. Let's do that. Let's go with lighting for tutorial. There's two types of lighting in Unity: real-time and baked static lighting. We would want a mixture of both because we have moving objects and static objects. Baking global lighting improves overall lighting quality. Real-time is useful when we have lights or objects moving around that interact with lighting more dynamically. Here I also want to bake indirect lighting, which is just different lighting mode for how we bake lighting. And I'm going to use the GPU light mapper because I do have a GPU in my computer. To get everything else set up, I'm going to make sure my model is set to static. So I can set that all to static. This designates which objects are not moving and will receive baked lighting. And at the same time, my cabinet I know will be moving around in my scene. So one thing I can do here is change this to not static, but also can still contribute global lighting, just to make sure I get nice textures on that. Other than that, I want to make sure that my emissive materials here, so that's under here, has a strong enough, I played around the numbers here, strong enough intensity as well, and set to real-time global illumination, because we'll set it as a dynamic light. Other than that, the sun here is set as a static light, assuming the sun doesn't move. You can also play with the intensity here as well, or you can do that here in environment. Let's set this intensity multiplier to 1.5, for example. You can also change the fog settings if you like. I set them to these default settings here. Other than that, I would also like to increase the number of bounce lighting to 5, increase the light map size as well to improve quality, and include ambient inclusion, let's say 1.6 or 1.5. Other than that, I can also increase light map padding. This just is helpful when our UVs overlap, just to reduce some potential errors in there as well. These are all settings you can play with, but I think I'll run with those for now, and let's see how that looks.